Well, first of all, thank you everybody for having me here. Thank you, Tom, for putting this together. Guest speakers and esteemed colleagues, thank you for having me here as well. I was asked to be involved in Florida Alimony Reform about 4 years ago because of my personal experience I had with my adversarial divorce back in 2003. About 2 years ago, I was asked to help lead the organization as co-director and spokesman because of my professional background. I'm a financial advisor by profession and a certified divorce financial analyst. I actually had a couple come into my office not too long ago, married 65 years, and he was 92, she was 89, wanting a divorce. I said to them, "You're married 65 years, you're 92, you're 89, why would you want a divorce now?" I said, "Oh, we were just waiting for the kids to die." No, I'm just kidding, just kidding. Sometimes you have to have a little levity with this situation. It's a serious topic. I realized during my divorce, and certainly, while I was going through all of that the family law system needed to change. Like many of you, my 13-year marriage was coming to an end, and I was forced into that highly abusive system. I had no control. I had no voice. This life Boy Scout was treated like a criminal, and to this day, I still feel the repercussions of that. I was forced into a multi-day trial, waited months while paying temporary alimony, before receiving the final order, which took 60% of my assets, forced me to pay health care costs, insurance costs, and of course, permanent alimony. It was even worse for me because as a financial advisor, they froze all of my assets. I didn't have any way of getting to money to actually pay when I needed to pay, and that put me, of course, into arrears initially. I had to write the judge to ask them to release my money. My father was a New York City corrections officer. My uncles were both detectives for New York, one actually working for the mayor. So I was brought up in a household of justice. I believed in justice. It was fed to me like, my food was. So I couldn't believe, what was happening in the judicial system. It was the first time I heard of the term judicial discretion. So my appeal cost thousands of dollars, waited 2 more years to do that, and the appellate court ruled that the initial court did not abuse their discretion. The next trial was 3 years later, at a substantial cost again to hire an attorney, and although my former wife was making as much as I, healthy and fit, they ruled I had a job, so I had the ability to pay. Some of you may be, understanding some of this because you've experienced it yourselves. And I was ordered to pay the arrears in alimony or else report to the Brevard County Jail by that Monday. So I borrowed money from my family to keep myself from going to jail. My 4th trial occurred 2 years later than that, but this time I was a little smarter. I learned the book of procedure myself and defended myself pro se. I wasn't going to pay the enormous attorney fees that I paid previously. And while the judge once again did not modify my alimony, her attorney asked the judge to order me to pay her legal fees of $18,000, and the judge at that point said no, she pays her own legal fees. That in turn set up a private mediation session because she knew at that point, since I knew how to do it myself, that I would take her back to court every year and she would have to pay her own legal fees. It set up a private mediation where we agreed that I would not have to pay permanent alimony any longer. So, that got me out of that. So I can understand what everybody is going through. I lived it for 9 years of my life, and I'm thrilled, that I don't have to do that any longer. So for me, permanent alimony is a thing of the past. It was funny, I went to dinner the other night with a longtime friend of mine, and when I took out my wallet, he saw that I still carry a picture of my ex-wife. He said, "Wow, I thought, Alan, you went through a horrible divorce. Why do you have a picture of your ex-wife?" I said, "Well, when I look at her picture, whenever I have a problem, no matter how impossible it is, I look at this picture," yeah, you kind of get what I'm looking at, "and the problem just seems to go away." He said, "Oh, how nice." I said, "Yeah, how nice." Yeah, okay. Wait. I'll get out the picture. Alec Baldwin, when discussing and promoting his book, A Promise to Ourselves, which I ask everybody to find and read if you like, said the family law system in our country, and I quote, "is inefficient on its best day, uncaring on its average day, and downright corrupt on its worst day." And I've seen every part of that. I knew that getting divorced wasn't a walk in the park, but I never dreamed, that it could be what it is. Well, not only did I discover in Florida that the system seemed to allow this type of behavior, it actually forgives it and condones it, and at least in Florida, they seem to want more of it. Ladies and gentlemen, confronting and fighting injustice is not an easy thing to do, and I'm sure Tom will vouch to this. At times you'll find yourself alone. Your friends and coworkers may be uninvolved or simply sway with the prevailing winds. It takes some guts. There are a lot of people who complain out there. There are very few of us who'll go and actually do something. So I applaud each and every one of you for even attending this, because I know each and every one of you want to do something. So thank you for that. Give yourselves a hand. One of my favorite sayings is by Edward Burke. He said that all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. So we have to do something and change, these laws. So I asked myself, all right, what's the reason? Why would the system of injustice occur? What's happening here, and why is this happening? Well, the family lawyers, and I'm not talking about all family lawyers. There are many family lawyers out there that really want change. I'm specifically talking about litigating attorneys who enjoy the fight and want to keep on litigating, and they make the money from this system. They saw an opportunity in that they can promote more litigation and create more money. Like any business person will do, they try to go into something and become a ruthless business person and gain more money as possible. Well, they've been allowed, to do that. And as far as I'm concerned, the family litigators have become much more effective at taking advantage of the shortcomings of our system than they have making sure that justice prevails. So that's one of the problems that we're really facing in Florida right now. And they argue that the law allows for this. So we're going to make sure that we can continue with this. I personally would find it intrusive, degrading, harassing, destructive, and you can add any adjectives that you want to that. So I dug a little deeper, and I asked myself, well, how could the law allow for this? What's going on here? And what else could I do to help change the law? Luckily, other people were asking the same question at the time. And when I came across these people, we formed Florida Alimony Reform, hardworking citizens like yourself, and we got together and formed a core group to see what we can do to actually change the law in Florida. Luckily, I had the guidance of Mr. Steve Hittner and Liz Benedict, who helped guide me through the process a little bit to see what was, happening in Massachusetts and what they did to actually construct a new law, and Steve, almost single-handedly, as you heard, worked with the bar associations there. It took him, unfortunately, it took you 8 years to do it. Hopefully it'll take us a little bit less time to do it because of the work that you've done over the years. So again, I applaud your efforts. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and certainly everybody in Florida has something to thank you for as well. With the help of Liz, we actually constructed a campaign, a media campaign that Steve was talking about. We wrote local newspapers, we contacted TV stations, news reporters, sending out press releases and emails to our members to keep them informed of every development that occurred. That's one of the most important things that we have to do. Make sure that when you talk to people, inform them. Just don't tell them your horror story. Educate them a little bit. It's critical that you do that with any sort of information that's coming out, because you don't want to be one-sided. You want to tell them every part of the issue that you can, and we try to do that on the Florida Alimony Reform website as much as we can. Our mantra has always been, it doesn't matter who's right, but what's right. And we still stick to that to this day. So we check our egos at the door, and while I was asked to take a leading role in this, all of our core group members really play a significant role, and our membership as well. So I don't want to leave them out. We try to all work collaboratively with each other to make this happen. So for those who lead here, I would say be a person of integrity, who's fair, be magnanimous, have an open mind, and understand that you're going to make mistakes along the way. I'm sure, Steve, you had to make mistakes along the way as you did this, and you learn from those mistakes. Well, that's right. And we're trying to follow that, trying to not make as many mistakes and learn from your mistakes so that we don't make the same. We'll make others, as we did, and I'll explain to you, what happened with what we did with Florida Alimony Reform. So let me give you a little history of what happened with us. First, we learned and we studied the current law. I had a little background being a financial advisor in the law, so I was able to come up with some good questions, cogent questions, and we drafted our own changes that we thought we can bring to our legislature. Now also, luckily, one of my close friends was a state rep, and I went to Representative Workman a few times over the years, and when the time was right, he said, you know, it's time to do something now, Alan. I see what's going on. I recognize it. I'm going to lead this effort with you. So right away we had a state rep that we knew we could trust. The hope was there. And for the first time, we actually helped him draft legislation. And Steve was right. It couldn't come from me, per se. It came from Rich. He worked very closely with me and our other core members to get what we want. And we brought in attorneys. We brought in a lobbyist, again, to help structure the legalities of it. But he had to be the one to present it. He brought on a Senate sponsor that we didn't really know too much about, but because, you know, he brought him on and he was powerful in the Senate, we figured it was, you know, fine to do. So we brought that on, and so we have a state sponsor and a Senate sponsor at this point. And remember, we were babes in the woods at the time, so we didn't know really what we were doing at this point. And we brought in the lobbyist really after the fact, who helped us then get meetings with other state legislators to lobby them, petition them, and educate them on the alimony reform measures that we wanted. Ultimately, they voted for reform, and along the way, of course, we changed the drafted version because, remember, it's a credibility issue right now. The legislators look at the Bar Association as being highly credible, and they look upon advocates such as us as being radical, people that want to change things. And, of course, you have, you know, the women, or at least they thought they would have women who would complain that they need the alimony and you're going against women, which actually didn't happen, which was wonderful until the very end. So we changed the draft. We had something very, very unique, very special, and we went through the different committees in Florida. We went through Judiciary, we went through Budget, we went through Rules in the House, and Representative Workman took that along the way. We passed every committee. Now, we had our members go to some of these committee meetings as well, all dressed in red. I see some people are wearing red shirts here as well. And we made a stand. We showed these legislators what we wanted to have done. Remember also that we had met with many of them beforehand, like Steve did, so we knew what the votes were going to be prior to that, by and large. And we passed every committee in the House, and we got to the House floor vote at that point. We also realized that the Senate version, while we were passing the committees in the Senate version really wasn't mimicking what the House version bill was. It was more structured for what the Florida Bar wanted. Now also, mind you, during all of this process, I was negotiating with the Florida Bar, the leadership of the Florida Bar. My lobbyist and I had them on the phone, and we were going over various issues, and they told us certain things they would agree to and certain things they would oppose. Not soon after we got to I believe, the House floor vote, did they publish on their website opposition to everything that we initially spoke about. So right off the bat, you know, their negotiating wasn't really in good faith as far as I'm concerned. And certainly as far as Representative Workman was concerned, he learned that, you know, later on as well. So we get to the House, and the bill passes 83-30, convincingly. Wonderful, and nobody's, you know, realized this. And we have, of course, had some bipartisan issues as well. The Republicans voted yes, a lot of the Democrats voted no, and there was some back and forthing with that. But we got past the House, and that got to be our lead bill. Well, the Senate version was still up in arms. We didn't know what was going to happen with that, because now the Senate has to bring the version to the floor for a vote. Had it gone to the Senate for a vote, we had the votes to pass it. Unfortunately, our own Senate sponsor never brought it to the Senate floor for a vote. And we found out afterwards that our Senate sponsor works for the same lobby firm as the Florida Bar. I'm going to let you make your judgments on what may have happened, but we found out too late, and that was, of course, one of our big mistakes. This session, I've already had, this upcoming session, I've already had 4 senators who have approached me wanting to sponsor our bill and or co-sponsor our bill, so that situation will not happen again. If one senator does not bring it to the floor, we will have others set up to bring it to the floor. And Rich Workman, again, has agreed to sponsor our bill. So we're very, very hopeful and confident that some form of alimony reform in Florida will happen this coming session. So you never know, with the political climate, with the economy, you never know really what's going to happen. Everything looks great, and it's funny because I had attorneys call me up at different times. Alan, what do you think is going to happen with, with the bill? Everything looked great for me, so I said, well, it's looking good. Our legislative sponsors pushing it through. Our Senate sponsor is looking good, and then all of a sudden, last day of session, it never gets into the Senate floor for vote. So we just didn't know. I'm not going to make claims any longer for this coming session. I'll just tell people, wait and see, and let's hope what happens. So you're right. So, and again, we really don't know. All we can do is our best and try our best and hope that the legislators do the right thing. This broken system actually, like Steve, cost me my life savings, as well as, at that time, a close relationship with my children. Now, things have gotten much better for me with my children. I'm thrilled for that. But it also taught me something extremely important. It taught me that you have to, in order to play a role in society, work together, like Steve said. It's like the pieces of a puzzle. We have to try to find that balance, whatever it is, to enable them to vote correctly, us to work with them correctly, and not disparage anybody along the way. One of our members, when that senator did what he did, or didn't do what he was supposed to do, started writing to the media about corruption scandals. And of course it came back to me. I got the phone call, Alan, what is your membership doing? What's going on? I didn't do it. We didn't condone that. He just did that on his own. Well, you have to stop it. Well, certainly I made the phone calls. We stopped it. I even wrote apology letters to Representative Workman, to the senator, to the senator's lobbyist, saying this was not our organization, this was a radical person, because we have to maintain our credibility. So what Steve said was correct. Make sure that you talk to people intelligently. Do not be radical with your approach. Educate them. Establish your own credibility. Because now, this coming session, I've already had phone calls. Like I said, the senators and the reps are coming to me because I've established my credibility with the legislators. And the bar, on the other hand, I've established some credibility with them. The whole Florida bar hates me. They've listed me in the Florida Bar Journal right now with alimony reform. But again, there are lawyers that are on our committee that believe in what we're doing. And there are lawyers that flew up from Florida here today that believe in what we're doing. And I thank you for that, John, as well. There's a lot that needs to be done still in Florida. We just put up billboards that say, do not get divorced in Florida. We just got 50 new members, actually, from those billboards. So we think that that's going to be a very good way of educating people. The irony of it is that if you're a resident of Florida, you have to get divorced in Florida. You'd have to establish residency in another state before you could not get divorced in Florida. We know that. That's not the point. The point is to create the attention, get the media on our side. Well, what's this all about? And certainly Eyewitness News did a whole story on our billboards, and a couple of other billboard companies have already contacted us wanting us to erect more billboards, and we don't know if that's just a business thing or if they really have something that they want to give us, but we'll find that out soon also. That's right, a discount. We're looking for that as well. So, you know, our obligation really is to be responsible, do the right thing. It's not always easy, and it comes at great personal expense. I know it has for Steve, I know it has for myself, and certainly for Tom, and everyone here at great personal expense. I spoke to people earlier today before the conference started, and I still can't believe, you know, some of the stories that I'm hearing, but they're actually happening. And we have to have a voice, a collective voice, to make sure that it gets known and make these changes. For me, it's two things, by and large. I want to make certain that what happened to me doesn't happen to my children. I can't let that happen. And the second thing is that I really want to believe in our system of justice again. If it means teaching the litigating family attorneys a lesson, then so be it. You know, if that has to happen, let them learn something. The law is there to help structure society. I believe in the law. We need good laws, or else chaos will reign. But they're there to protect the citizens, not the litigating attorneys at the expense of the citizens. I see the red and white and American flags down over here. Ladies and gentlemen, justice must prevail. And I'm going to make a preliminary announcement now, because my lobbyist has approached me on this already. And he said, Alan, if you get the law changed in Florida, I want you to consider running for state rep when the time allows it for it. And I've never really been political in my life, but I'll tell you something. If it allows for it, if I have that opportunity, and I get the votes, for it from people that want me to do this, and they help me fund it, because I certainly can't fund that myself, I would absolutely consider something like that to help change the law and make sure that you have a voice in the political scheme of things, to make sure that the attorneys, and you have a watchdog out there for what's happening from our legal system. So, that being said, I'll answer any questions. I'll answer any questions that anybody may have.
I project pretty well. Alan, my question is, my first statement, thank you so much on behalf of all of us Floridians who suffer under state-sponsored welfare alimony system like the rest of you, and thank you for everything you do. But I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you on behalf of everybody, because if we can get in Florida the gold standard that Mr. Hittner has gotten in Massachusetts, that gold standard might be applicable in New Jersey and possibly North Carolina, Minnesota, other places. Are you going to push hard to hit the gold standard? Or are you going to take something less? And if you're going to take something less, would you rather go with the task force?
Well, we're going to actually ask for everything. The task force is a little different in Florida than here. We don't necessarily need a task force, because we're kind of beyond that at this point. We've actually had legislation formed, and now we're just kind of tweaking it and trying to get something through the House and the Senate at this point. So we're kind of beyond that. And that's why we're hopeful that this coming session we're going to get what is necessary. The gold standard, we're going to ask for everything that we could possibly get, including something that allows prior orders to be able to come back to court under a change of circumstance and allow for, under the new law, modifications to occur and or eliminations, especially of permanent alimony. So absolutely, we're going to ask for as much as we can. Now, remember, a lot of the legislators still find the members of the Florida Bar very credible, as they should. So they're still listening very closely. They do find us very credible now as well. So they have something to decide on with all of this. And we're hopeful that the legislators ultimately will agree to something that's profound, that's wonderful. And we know that we're going to have to tweak it probably along the way in future years. We doubt if we're going to get everything that we ask for. I don't think anybody ever does, especially in our legislature. But we're going to try our best. I hope that answers your question. Yes?
I know in Florida, I'm a member of Florida as well as NJ Alimony Reform. They were upset that they were replacing permanent for long term. And is that something that would be acceptable for you? Because that wouldn't be acceptable for me.
Well, the difference is it's not just changing the words.
But they were changing the words to manipulate it to suit them. So they were angry that permanent is no longer existent, but that now long term.
Who was angry? The attorneys?
On that Florida, all over the world, they were angry about that.
Okay, actually, the term long-term alimony came into play from our core group. We actually instituted that to take out the word permanent. Now that we have the word long-term, we can define what long-term is and actually put limitations on the amount of alimony, the duration of the alimony with long-term. When something is permanent, as far as I know, the definition of permanent really is forever. Get rid of that. We don't want that. But long-term, we can actually define specific durations. That's what we're doing. You're welcome.
Alan, thank you.
Oh.
I don't have a question. I really thank you very much for your update on what's happening in Florida.
Okay.
The comedy was exceptional. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everybody.